Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another great episode of Stars of Big Sky Country, that series that spotlights those at the high school, collegiate, or professional level that have made an impact right here in the 406. And it's another episode in a brand new year, and we're keeping things rolling with. I'm going to go ahead and just admit it's a personal favorite of mine because when I set out to do this series, I said we have to have one of these individuals on the show. So he is a personal favorite of mine, a former Great Falls High Bison, a kicker at that for MSU Northern. It is Tate O'Neill. Welcome, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing great. And like I said, selfishly, this is an episode I wanted because when I created the series, I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 12 episodes to do this thing. And basically, I said, okay, so it's going to be mostly athletes. We're going to have some football players, probably volleyball, soccer, baseball, who knows. And I said, if I'm only going to get 12, it doesn't seem like a true me thing unless I get a kicker because I have had so many kicker friends over the years. I've even started the Kickers Need Love too, which you have a first of its kind shirt there, the Kickers Need Love too logo. So I said I gotta have a kicker on here. Like it only makes sense. So this is what do they say in acting? You do two for them, one for you. This one is definitely for me. So welcome to the show, and excited to have you. So I know that there's a bunch of questions I have for you specifically around kicking, but we'll go ahead and start things off the way that we always do, and that is, what's it like to be Tate O'Neill?
It's a good time. It's fun. Just very random. Love the sports. Love the friends. Love the travel. All of that, and just looking for every opportunity I can get, whether that's on the field, off the field, or any job opportunity that shows, and just trying to make my way to the next level, as in career or in the next year in football.
Yeah, and one thing that we'll actually talk about later on in the episode is where you are right now and why you're there. You're one of the few athletes that I've talked to that is trying to basically make a name for themselves or an impact off the field or the court or the pitch or the diamond, whatever. And so we'll definitely get to that. But first, we're going to trace it back to the roots. You are from Montana, Great Falls right here, former Bison. What did you like most about growing up in a place like Great Falls, Montana?
Definitely the atmosphere. There's not much places like it in Montana. There's not much places that have that rivalry feel right when you go into school. Even in middle school, you hear about the Bison versus the Rustlers. And just like growing up in that atmosphere and around the same people all the way through, and then knowing those teammates all the way through. And that's just is such a beautiful atmosphere that like I got the chance to be a part of. And starting football late, of course, starting my junior year, it was definitely different because I was doing other sports. And then all of a sudden I just was on the football team and they just welcomed me with open arms. So definitely that atmosphere, just that welcoming feel. That's just like a brotherhood on that football field.
Yeah, I'm starting to really pick up on that, third year in, and I don't know if it's because of a lack of like professional sports here in the state. I mean, you have the Cats and Grizz, but that's collegiate, and that's not even like they couldn't get into the 16 team playoff if they wanted to. They're completely different. So it's almost like there's more of an appreciation, more of a love for the lower level sports here in Montana and Great Falls. And I don't know if you would concur with that or if I'm yeah, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, but that's kind of what I've gathered from my brief time here in the state.
Yeah, it's definitely something different. You don't have those NFL teams or those NBA teams going throughout. So you don't have people traveling all the way from like across the country to come watch a football game. But just the atmosphere within the state, and just Montanans love football. Montanans love any sport that comes at them. So it just is such a fun atmosphere because you get all those locals, and especially up in Havre at Northern where I'm at, just that small town feel. Is like Havre is obviously a smaller town compared to the other college towns, and all the locals that come to those games, they love that atmosphere and they feel it, and they just really support us and they support who we are as a team. So it's such a cool atmosphere to be a part of.
Yeah, I've been to Northern games, been to Carroll games, been to Tech games. They definitely, each fan base is unique, first and foremost, but they definitely love their football. So I will agree with you on that. As far as kicking goes, laces in or out?
Definitely out. It's impossible. If you can drill a kick with laces in 10 out of 10 times, I don't know if you're being honest. So,
Okay, fair enough. Well, I love the kicker position. You guys all have such unique personalities, but I think you almost have to because of the kind of like pressure and stress that comes with a position. I've explained this to people, and I still don't know if they fully grasp just what the kicking position is. So yeah, I mean, everybody loves to compare things to football, like, oh, he's the quarterback of our company, or like he's the center of our company. Nothing happens without his start to it, and this guy, leads us or whatever. So there's a lot of football references in life. And when it comes to the kicking position, I don't think people fully grasp just what it is. And it is a position in sports, and I'm pretty sure it's in a league all of its own. Like I tried to think about other sports and if there's a position like this, maybe a goalie, but even then, I don't know. The kicker is in a single moment at the same time is loved and hated, and then in the next moment can be loved and hated by opposite groups. So the group that started loving them can hate them the next moment, and the group that hated them can love them the next. And it all comes down to if it's a 2 point game, 3 points wins it. Like if you're the team that has the kicker, if it's good, you love that kicker, right? It's like you won us the game. There's all this, celebration, confetti falls, cannons go off, whatever. And if you're on the losing team, you're like, dang it, I hate that kicker. Like he's missed all game long, and of course he hits this one, or whatever the case is. And then on the other end, if you miss, your whole team is like, well, oh, it shouldn't come down to a kick, and the other one's like, oh, it's perfect, that's exactly what we needed. So I don't know if you've had any time to think about it, but you and I have discussed it before. Is that an accurate way to sum up what the kicking position is?
I'd say so, yeah. Like I always like to compare it with just like a mix of different sports, like elements in different sports. Like when I started, before I was a kicker, I was a golfer and I was a soccer player. And like I used those skills I learned like in that to kind of like work on that kicking game. And like truthfully, I didn't even mean to be a kicker. I went out thinking it was the same thing as a soccer ball. It was not. And I tried it and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, and I was like, but it's not the same kick. And I was like, and like our kicker had formally just graduated that year. So I was like, this might be something to try out and get kind of fun at, make it a little hobby, something to do. Started doing it and I was like, I actually really like this. I might as well like go try out for the team, and went out and it just obviously worked out. And just like to teach myself that first year was really like interesting because it was like comparing those sports I played. So like I always used like my foot like a golf club basically. If you hit it on the top part, it's going to go to the right. If you hit it on the closer to the heel, it's going to go to the left. If you turn your hips, like if you turn the club, it's going to go hook to the left. Just like that. And then just like the soccer kick itself, like it's not the exact swing or anything like that, but you kind of have that general idea to start. So it kind of really helped like the sports I had already played up to that point. And then with the pressure, that's just something like you just grow into, you get used to it, and you just end up loving that atmosphere. And when you're on that field, it just goes silent, truthfully. You don't hear anybody in the crowd. It's just you and that ball. You've done it a million times in practice. So why not do it right there and then?
There's that video going around right now of Zane Gonzalez, currently with the Washington Commanders. I guess he has really bad OCD, and so he was coming off the bench and he was touching his hair like 3 times. Went to put his helmet on, touched it 3 times again, and this went through like 3 or 4 series. So I just wonder, it because for you guys, it's so much of it is out of your control, and I don't think that's another aspect that people realize when it comes to the kicking position is that all you do is kick. Yes, like that is your one job, but at the same time, like when you consider everything, all you're doing is literally the motion of kicking. You're not snapping the ball. You're not holding your own ball. You're not positioning the ball however you need it. It's so much of a series from snap to hold to kick. You are literally just kicking that ball. And so you have to have a good long snapper to be able to get it to your holder, and you and your holder have to be in sync and at least close to being on the same page in order for that thing to come off the way that it needs to and be good. And like when did you realize that that was very much a part of the game for you is that, okay, so this is my job, but there's so many parts of my job that are completely beyond my control. And how did you overcome that?
Definitely like at the start of my whole career, it was like I grew up a football fan, so I of course knew it wasn't just a kicker. Of course, it's a holder, but like
Yeah.
before you start it, you don't realize like how much it really is coming down to that hold and coming down to that snap until you start doing it. And it was really like at the start of the high school like game when I first started playing, really. And I got really lucky in the sense of I had Bridger Polk as my first ever holder, and he had like trained with who ended up being my kicking trainer, Dylan Torgerson in the state, and he trained with him and taught him how to hold. So it felt really comfortable. And then I got very lucky with my snapper and Broden Bolin being like one of the best snappers in the country. So like I got really lucky to start, and I never had to worry about those holds and those snaps because I knew they were always going to be just right for me. And then for my senior year, of course, I had Ashton Platt, who him and I were good buddies all the way through high school. So it was like it's very important to have someone you trust holding that football for you and know who can do it and who will listen to you. And I had that in both of my years in Platt and in Bridger. So it really worked out in that sense. And then right into college, of course, I have Platt with me now. So it just made it even better to like go right into that and right into those holds. And now he knows how to like teach the new holders that are coming in what I want because we're right there together still. So definitely something that was like at the start of my career that I just knew I had to get used to and get comfortable with and get someone I can trust to do it.
So, in other words, you've been very fortunate to have guys that know how to hold your balls and do it very well. So,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's a,
That's definitely it. Yeah.
it's a kicking joke that I got away with one time, and you could tell that the kicker Jacob Stitz was not ready for it, and he just started laughing because his holder. I think I told you this story. His holder was their wide receiver, who's on their billboards in town. He's like got cardboard cutouts of himself for different sponsorship ads. Like he is their poster boy, and so to
Yeah.
have such a pretty boy be the holder, I couldn't stop myself. So
Oh no, I love it. I got that joke thrown at me too. I was at my buddy's wedding that he invited me to. He was our punter last year, and I was one of his groomsmen. So like for the groomsman introduction, he was like, I've always seen you as a brother. I don't know if it was because that we met holding when I was holding your balls, or if it was something else. It was just caught everyone in the crowd off guard, of course.
oh, it's so great.
This episode of Stars of Big Sky Country is brought to you by Russell Country Federal Credit Union, where they believe in helping you and your children achieve financial success while building a better community. They want to be your financial home, so stop in at their Great Falls or Fairfield office and get started on your new account today.
So we've broken down the kicker position, high stress, high risk, high reward, I guess is one cliche, but so much of it is beyond your control. But it is something that, and you and I had talked about this your senior year, was that there's certain life hacks that I think people tend to overlook too quickly. And there's certain things that it's like it's there staring you in the face, but until somebody points it out to you, you're like, "Oh, wow." So, there's the show Lost. And of course, the main character happens to be a doctor because when you're stranded anywhere, like doctor becomes the most valued profession that you can have. And so it's like protect the doctor at all costs. And then there was the show Black Sails, and they were being boarded by pirates. And the guy's like, "Aren't you going to fight or hide?" And he's like, "I'm a cook, and everybody needs a good cook. Like I've got nothing to be afraid of because cooks are, they're hard to find sometimes." And so for you, I said, if anybody soccer or football or really any sport wanted to have a crack at a legitimate athletic scholarship that paid either full ride or really well, look into being a kicker because every team needs a good kicker. And if you can prove that you're a good kicker in high school and translate that to the next level, like they've got, so many on the roster available, they'll throw a scholarship at that, no problem, because that's one position less that they have to worry about come the start of the season. And you were just like, uh-huh, like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Did that go through your mind as far as when you were looking at what the next step was after Great Falls High was, who needs a good kicker, or where could I at least, go and pretty much be right on the field in the action my first year? Or what was the thought process for you in picking where you wanted to go next?
I wouldn't say per se like, oh, I'm looking to be on the field like first the next year or looking for money or looking for the best situation or anything. It was more just in the sense of like, where's going to be my next home? Like, where am I going to see myself in the next 4 years? And like, I had three things I was looking for, of course. Like, I was looking for the schooling at first, like, what degrees do they have? Like, what is going to be good for me? And then next was like, what's the team like? Like, what are the players like in the atmosphere? And what are those coaches like to be around? And then the place, of course. And like, is it close to home? Is it like the town itself? Is it like a fun community to be in? Is it cold, of course, and that's sometimes in Montana you can't really get out of. But that was kind of like those three things I was really looking for, was like just the atmosphere and like the people around, and then that degree, of course, because that's the biggest thing, is the degree.
Yeah, a lot of you guys that I've talked to when it comes to picking where you're going to go after high school, it seems like you guys are homebodies where you want to go somewhere that's far enough away or it's close enough that, you can just come home on the weekend if you need that kind of recharge, that you get from being home. But it's far enough away where your parents aren't just going to go up and try to surprise you because, 2 hours one way, if you decide to leave and come to Great Falls and they decide we're going to go up there and surprise you. Now somebody's waiting around for 2 hours for somebody to get back. And so I think, Carroll, you guys, Tech, all those schools around here are like that perfect combination, and they all have football programs. For you, I was there when you guys finally snapped the losing streak. You had your first
Yeah.
field goal, and there was a lot of firsts, but it was a true testament to the endurance of Jerome Sowers and his new program. What was it like to be a part of that? Even though you're still so early in the program, it was just, you knew kind of what it meant to those fans and the veteran players ahead of you and just the community as a whole.
Yeah, it's just definitely one of those things that we just preach at Northern, and Coach Sowers really just does preach it. And even like if you're not on the team and you walk in a room in the middle of one of those speeches that he's giving, like you just feel that heart he has for that game and for our players, like for my teammates. Like he just has that heart and just cares for each and every one of us, and just really has that heart for the game, and just really wants to see us do well and just grow. And that's really why we've been able to grow the program the way we have, just because of the amount of heart he puts into us and how much heart we give back. Just that push and that drive, and just coming and starting with a win at like a school that's had struggles with that in its history is just like, it just shows like how much heart he really put into us in that off season. And like it was just such an amazing moment that just started out that way, and it was just such an amazing moment to be a part of.
I wish I would have been there on the call for it because I had been on the call for a couple other MSU Northern games, and they started off great, and then third, fourth quarter it kind of got out of hand. But I was still there. I was still able to witness the win, and so I'm very thankful for that because I knew I could see just how much that program had been working toward a win like that and to give something back to the fans and the community. So it was great to be there. Great to see you get your first points. Got to see Platt play, obviously. And so it was just really great all around. So you guys did a fantastic job there. Before we move on to what you're doing now and next, what is it about Montana or Great Falls that you think shaped you to be who you are now and who you ultimately want to be later on?
Montana just really just builds that grit in you. You know what I mean? Like we're just half the year we're in the freezing cold, we're in the negative weather. You're still going to school, you're still going outside, you're still playing football in it, you're still just doing whatever in the outside. Like that cold never stops you, and it just really builds that grit in you and just that determination to never really give up. And just like I said before, that like small town feel, no matter where you go, whether it's Havre, whether it's Billings, like it's still that small town feel where it's like you just feel like you're just in a place that everyone really cares for you and everyone wants to see you do well. And even in that, like in the Bison and like Rustlers rivalry, still like by the end of the game, it's still a respectful atmosphere. Like right in the game, of course, we hate each other, we go at it, but right after, it's still a respect factor. Like you guys earned it, you guys won it, and that's like we'll get you next year, we'll get you next time, whatever. And it's like still that respect, and we still go at it and clash heads the next year, but then right then again, it's just that respect that always comes back. And I think that's a pretty rare thing for a state to have, really all throughout its state. So that's just something that really helps you grow and see who you are as a person. And even like coming down to where I'm at now, it's like everyone's, and it's kind of weird. Like it's been colder here for where I'm at, and everyone's been all bundled up, and then me, I'm out here in shorts out here, and you're like, I'm like, oh, it's great out here, and they're like, how are you doing that? I'm like, I'm from Montana. That's why. Like that's the reason. They're like, oh, I get it. Like even people like when they hear that, they're like, oh, you're from Montana. That's why you can handle all that. So it's just definitely one of those things that it's just known that when you're from Montana, you just got that, you just have that grit.
Yeah, for reference, context to people wondering. So Tate is in Orlando right now, and he's actually literally working at Disney. And it was something that him and I had discussed last time that we saw each other, I think, sidelines for one of the Bison games. He said that it was an opportunity that might come up. So you're in Orlando, and it's an internship. Tell me about this, man, because I definitely did not see this on the bingo card for former athletes from Great Falls High or CMR.
Yeah. Well, just we after when I was going into school, like what I was looking for was a design type of field to study, a design type of way to study, because I've always been fascinated in theme park design and I've always wanted to do that for my career. And I grew up coming to the Disney parks and I've been to a few other parks like Knott's Berry's Farm, but like we always came back to those Disney parks as a family. And I was always fascinated with how they made these stories come to life in their parks. And people always asking, oh, how'd they do that? How'd they do this? So I've really always wanted to do that. And they have this amazing program called the Disney College Program. Well, while you're in school, you can apply for it and you can come in and there's a whole application process, send in your application, get a phone interview, and then finally become accepted. And they have all these different roles, is what we call them, just the different job types throughout the company. And they're like attractions where you work on one of the rides, or there's in the restaurant where you serve food or you go and sit people, or there's people that are like assisting the characters as they come out, like anything like that, anything in the hotels, just whatever. And you have those preferences of like what you're looking for to do, and you talk about that in your interview. And it just really worked out, and I happened to get accepted to it. And then later on, I found out what I was doing, of course. And I am a Jungle Cruise skipper, if you guys have ever been to the park. Yeah. So just for context, for anyone that hasn't been to the Disney parks or heard of the Jungle Cruise, well, it's this classic ride where it's a slow moving boat ride on the water where they have their skippers driving the boat and telling a bunch of dad jokes.
That's awesome. There was a movie made based on the ride Jungle Cruise. So Tate is the Rock, basically.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Yeah,
So
you can tell,
awesome.
right? Yeah.
That is so awesome. Oh, I love it. Uh, Tate the Kicker is the Rock right now in Orlando.
Yep.
Uh, you're working as a skipper, but your focus is ride design then?
Yeah, so just like throughout, I've always kind of like studied like the ride history here and just like the design of it. And I've always really liked the more of the design side. So of course there's the guys that like put the actual roller coaster or ride together and the mechanics of it. I like the design and the theme of it. So I like what movie is it going to be based off of, or like what time period, what place, like that. I'm kind of like, and the people that are looking around, they're like, oh, what's that over there? Like, oh, I remember that in this movie. Like that's going to be kind of what I really want to do. And this is just like a great way to get my foot in the door and just a really great opportunity to just start my way into the company. And then when I still have the chance to still be part of football while I'm doing that, of course, because I can still play football down here, and I can still like there's an ESPN zone right here on Disney property where they have all these different football fields. So I can go practice and I can go kick. And we have a lifting facility right in our apartment complex. So I can go lift still. And it just really worked out for that. I'm still doing classes online, so I'm never going to be behind in my degree. But then I still have this opportunity to just go work at Disney every day. So it's a pretty cool moment.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it is. So, how good are you at like Roller Coaster Tycoon? Like, are you like like all Madden team?
I would say so. I would win more on the Planet Coaster is what it's called, that game platform. I've been doing that, and it's funny. I when we were in the dorms, I was playing on it, and I was just designing this thing just when I didn't have class last year, and just all right on my PlayStation. And then like my buddy would walk in, Plaid, of course, me and my roommate, he would always see it and see the progression of it. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just building. And then like slowly it would build. And I built this huge pirate area just right in there. And then I started working on this Western area. And it was just like, this really cool park. I built it like right into a mountain, and it was like,
Wow.
yeah, so it's a good time. Yeah.
So, I love roller coasters. I've ridden all of them at Universal, probably at least, 10 times, and I don't know, they're fascinating. Just the excitement of them. And so I finally got a GoPro last year, and so I want to start up a YouTube channel where I review roller coasters because I actually am a member of this group on Facebook called like Universal Disney Tips and Tricks for people that are like first timers, and my wife and I know how to theme park pretty well. So, I mean, not to brag, but we do it pretty good. And I remember somebody asking like, "Hey, how would you rate like the roller coasters and which ones would you hit up first and which ones are must?" And so I just went through all of them and I graded
Yeah.
them on like a 5-star scale for like initial drop and like twists and turns, the smoothness of the ride and the length of the ride and all that. And I remember I posted it and I didn't really expect much. And then like, 38 comments later, it was just like, "This is awesome. Like, wow, this I'm totally going to use this when I go there. Like, these are great." And a few people disagreed with some of the ratings that I had for them, but I mean that's whatever. But so yeah, I really want to take that, go ride roller coasters, video it, and then give a review like that on camera. Like you see it for like the diners, drive-ins, and
Yeah.
dives or whatever, but it'd be short little like 3 to 5 minute videos. So secretly, that's something that I have wanted to do for a while. So I'm a little jealous that you get to actually be down there at a Disney working on rides. But hopefully, you design one that I can come and ride and review.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yes,
It'd be a
that
full
would
circle
definitely be the
moment.
dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm on one. You can come review that.
So how long are you going to be there for?
I'm gonna be down here until July 31st, and then come
Okay.
right back and come right to back to Havre and get right back to work on the football field.
You're not coming back. You're there that long, you'll find a reason not to come back. You'll find a team down there to kick for. There's plenty of teams too. There's the Orlando Predators. You could go and probably kick for them, get paid to kick footballs in the Arena Football League. So, but man,
Yeah, there is a lot of opportunity down here, but
yes,
I
very
don't know.
much.
I'm definitely a loyal type of person, and I want to see it out with Coach Towers, see it out with Northern Lights, and see what we can do these next few years.
Good, because I do plan on making another trip or two up to Northern. Love to see another couple of wins. Every time I've been to their Carroll or Rocky, the atmosphere or Tech, the atmosphere is always great. So I would love to do more of that when it's above the temperature of like 20 degrees, like it was when I went to Tech and Carroll. That was oof, yeah, that was a chilly one. But
Yeah.
so I feel like I I don't know if I'm asking the wrong question or the right question just with the wrong wording or the wrong way. Like I don't expect you guys to rat anybody out. I never do. But I'm trying to still have fun and get some quality content and some clips and maybe even some stories at the end of it. So I keep asking people like what is the most Montana thing you've ever done? And I don't expect it to be like cow tipping. I just expect I don't know, just like a certain level of kind of okay, because I've actually in my brief time here, if somebody asked me, I could tell you the most Montana thing I've done and would stand firmly by it. But so when I ask somebody that, like, one, do you have a story that you could think of as the most Montana thing you've done, or am I asking it in the wrong way?
No, no, I got a few ideas, of course. Being raised in Montana, just the most Montana thing you've done is just like every other week. So, um, I would know. I would say for one, the hunting, fishing, but like, of course, the stories of walking miles upon miles and not getting anything, and then walking back and there's a deer right by your truck, and then you're like, oh, amazing. Or like you take out a deer and you have to pull it across the field for like 4 miles, or even just right in the summer, right on water sports. Just like last year, I was just right on the lake, right on Whitefish, and just going jet skiing, and just having a blast on there, almost taking each other out, and then going tubing, and then getting launched off to the point where you're skipping on water like a rock, and it's just like, just like why not? It's just something stupid. Or like I would say the most Montana thing though, like out of all things, is it's not an exact story or an exact like moment. It's just something that people do, and it's the shorts. going out in negative 50-degree weather, going out in negative whatever, and you just see everyone in shorts and just go walking right into school. And there's not everyone does it, but I do it. And just walk into the school and you're in shorts and it's negative 30 out, and the people are like, "You're insane." It's like, I'm not cold. What can I say? And then there's also the funny story of like the 35, like of course my number being 35. It was a random story of how I ended up with that. Like I did not want 35 like to start high school my junior year. I was always like number 5 on soccer, or and of course golf don't really have numbers, but I was always number 5 because I was born in '05. That was always my number. And I got there for football, and Justin Brunken was number 5. And of course he's the senior, so he gets it because he's the year older. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I need something with 5 in it. So I'm like just like narrowing down the options. And Coach Sampson was the coach at that point. And I was like, "Hey, coach, do you have anything with a 5 in it?" Because he handed me number 32. And I was like, "Do you have anything with a 5?" And he was like, "Well, let me look." And he looked through it and he saw, and it's funny because now I love him to this day. Mason Kroll had 35 like on the list. And Mason, of course, a sophomore, and I'm a junior, or he's a freshman at this point, and I'm a junior. And then I was like, "Oh, that's fine." And then Coach Sam's like, "No, no, he can switch. He's 32 now." So he put me at 35. And then I wore 35 that year, and I could have gotten 5 for my senior year, but I was like, I can't not go with 35 now. I just love it now. Like that's just my number. And now it works because I have that 5 in there, and then the 3 is for all the field goals. So I got the perfect number now for me. And it's just like a funny story of how it ended up just getting that 35.
Does Mason know that you took his
Yeah,
number?
I've talked to him. I doubt he remembers. Like if you asked him like how he ended up with 32, I doubt he would remember, but I have talked to him about it before.
Wow.
Yeah, and just like because he didn't know that at first, because I think he just got assigned a number and then they just switched it on him. And yeah, I doubt he remembers truthfully, but it was just a funny little thing between me and Coach Sampson that was just like, all right.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm the new guy, of course. So like I felt like terrible. Like I'm just
He
like
doesn't need it.
number, like, yeah. It was like, all right.
Well, to wrap up, I know that you and I have talked that your kicking career with the Bison did not end on the note that you wanted. A no kick, some confusion, the wind blew the ball off the tee, and that whole fiasco. But in the time that you were there and now at MSU Northern, have you at least had a kicking moment, like one that you look back on that you'd be like, that was, if I ended my career today, that's my kicker moment right there?
Yeah. There's always a few, like the first points that you saw just for like Northern,
Yeah.
like that was just such a huge thing. Of course, just going out and being able to make those kicks for the first time, like that was a big thing. And one I'll never forget just because of just like who it was too. We were playing, and I've talked to like my buddy Cactus on the Northern team because he was on the senior high team when we played him, when we played senior. We had this kick against senior, and I put it up in the air, and it looked like it was going to end up in the end zone. So the returner just let it go, stopped right at the 1. And of course, we were going to score if we grabbed it. So we had to run over, pounce on it. And that returner was Junior Bergen's little brother, the Grizz returner. Yeah, Junior. It was his little brother. So it was just such a cool moment because I'm like grew up a big Grizz fan, so I knew who it was, of course. And it
Wow.
was just kind of funny. And he was known throughout the state, like his little brother, even like Junior's little brother was too, of course, of like for being that like stud returner that you got to watch out for. And it was funny. And like my buddy Cactus, who was on the team, he was like, "Oh, dude, I remember that." He was like, "I remember Bergen getting yelled at like on the sideline for just not going to grab it." And it was like, "Oh, that makes my moment just even better."
Excellent. Well, as we wrap up here, what are some Tate O'Neill or kicker words of wisdom?
The kicker words of wisdom. I love it.
Laces
Uh,
out.
yeah, definitely just when you're going into an opportunity, whether you're going into a sport or to a class or whatever, just give it your all. Like show them that you want to be there, show them that you care. And just because you do so much doesn't mean you can't do it. Like in high school, of course, like doing those 3 sports during like that same year, like doing golf, soccer, football during my junior and senior year, it was like how the people always ask, like, how'd you do that? How'd you make time for it? And it was like, it was just something I really wanted to do. So I just did it. And like, just something I never will regret and never take for granted because I just loved that opportunity. And I just didn't want to leave those teammates behind. So always remember like those teammates you grew up with or those family and friends that you always pushed you to be there. And always just be loyal to them and show them that you care, because then that'll just make it even better on the field or in the classroom or whatever you're doing in a career, whatever it is. And just really push yourself to be at the best. And if you want to do something, you can put your mind and do it.
Yeah, people have always asked me in the 10 years I've done this, some of the interviews, they'll be like, how'd you get that person as a guest on your show? And it's like, I ask, you know, and
Yeah.
so if there's something that you want to do it, you know, make time to do it. Tate did it, obviously, and he's a better man for it. Man of many talents, specifically kicking, but now he's live from Orlando, Skipper O'Neill, working on ride designs at an internship. Man, talk about making an impact on and off the field, and we're all the more proud of you for it. So, hey, thank you so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it. It's been great talk.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for having me again. This has been a blast. So I've been waiting for this. I've been excited for this, and definitely worked out. So I'm glad we got it to work out.
All right, folks. So don't forget, kickers need love too. They are people, and they have a very important job. And Tate knows all about that. But for Tate, aka Skipper O'Neill, I am, as always, the team man, Richard Tiemann, and this has been another great episode of Stars of Big Sky Country. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel and give us a like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And until next time, you can catch us among the stars of Big Sky Country. We'll see you then.